You are listening to the audio production of St. Patrick, His Confession and Other Works, translation by Father Neil Xavier O'Donoghue, published by Catholic Book Publishing Corporation. This book is read by Tom Parks. Forward. Most people know of some of the popular traditions associated with St. Patrick, such as the casting out of all snakes from Ireland, or the use of the shamrock as a symbol of the Trinity. However, relatively few have ever read the saint's two surviving works translated in this small book. It is our hope that by reading the Confessio and the letter to Coroticus and his soldiers, which modern historians unanimously accept as having come from the pen of St. Patrick himself, many more people can get to meet St. Patrick the man and discover his relevance for the 21st century. The texts have been translated with the aim of letting St. Patrick speak for himself without encumbering them with many notes or entering into discussions that are only of interest to specialists. A number of other sections have been added to this work to help us meet St. Patrick. The life of St. Patrick is taken from the 1911 edition of the Catholic Encyclopedia and provides a fuller historical picture, drawing on later historical documents and traditions. Likewise, the beautiful discourse of Pope John Paul II from his pastoral visit to Drogheda, within the archdiocesan boundaries of Armagh, whose bishop is the successor of St. Patrick and primate of all Ireland, is a very moving reminder from the successor of Peter of the continued relevance of Ireland's apostle. Finally, this book ends with a newly composed novena to St. Patrick based on early Irish sources and the official Mass of St. Patrick for personal prayer. It is our hope that this little book will help foster devotion to St. Patrick anew and help yet another generation of Christians to join their lives to Christ in prayer as St. Patrick himself did so many years ago, as a slave herding sheep on the barren mountain of Slemish. Father Neil Xavier O'Donoghue, Kearney, New Jersey. Feast of St. Bridget, Abbess, Secondary Patron of Ireland, February 1st, 2009. Chapter 1. The Confessio, or Confession, of St. Patrick. The Confessio of St. Patrick cannot be considered an autobiography in the modern sense. While it would be nice to have a modern autobiography of Ireland's national saint, the Confessio is, perhaps, a still more important document. Although it may not contain as many details about St. Patrick's life as we would like, it gives us a window into his soul. What matters for us today is not so much that we might identify the exact location of Manuenta Bernai or the wood of Vaucluse. What truly matters, and what the Confessio offers to us, is the possibility to partake of the same divine life that St. Patrick brought to Ireland. St. Patrick's world of the 5th century in Western Europe was an adventurous time coming between the Roman Empire and the birth of the Middle Ages. As the old order of the empire passed away, a new Europe was born. The unity of this new Europe was to be based on a common Christian heritage. As missionaries embarked on their apostolic expeditions, new lands were incorporated into this new Christendom. Ireland was, in fact, the first new region to be evangelized outside the frontiers of the Roman Empire, and so brought into the fold of Christendom. The Confessio provides a fascinating first-hand account of the evangelization of Ireland, written by the man whose subsequent generations of Irish people would unanimously recognize as their patron saint. It seems that St. Patrick wrote the Confessio in order to defend himself against accusations made against him in his native Britain. He was probably an old man, approaching his final days and unable to travel back to Britain in person, for reasons of age and because of the needs of his mission. Therefore, he introduces the reader to the circumstances that led him to Ireland in the first place as a slave and to his return later on as a missionary bishop. He also takes time to explain some details of the mission itself.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?